You folks trickling in, but being mindful of time and that we have a lot to cover today, we will go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome. I am Kate Berkner. I'm the Assistant Publisher and Associate Director of Publishing Strategy here at Sourcebooks. I have worn many hats during my 15 years here, but I've had the honor of working with the kids editorial team for nearly 2 years now and have absolutely loved having the opportunity to help shape and grow some of these remarkable imprints. I'm even more thrilled to be introducing Sourcebooks publisher and CEO Dominique Rocca. From my many years of working with Dominique, I can say that her ongoing commitment to our mission of books change lives and her vision for helping every child become a reader comes from a very personal and passionate place. And I get to see that every day in her championship of our authors, of our bookseller and librarian and educator partners, and of readers. Dominique founded Sourcebooks from her home in 1987. Since then, she has won every innovation award that the industry gives and was named the Publishers Weekly Person of the Year in 2016. Through the years, she has led our continuously growing, pioneering general book publishing house to become the largest woman-owned publisher in the country, happily producing everything from adult and teen fiction, top titles in children's books, college guides, and more. Sourcebooks has created scores of New York Times bestsellers, hundreds of national bestsellers, and #1 selling titles in perennial categories. We work with our retail partners to experiment and develop new ways to inspire and delight their customers and create books that have extraordinary impact. Dominique herself is deeply interested in expanding readership, creating a world of readers, and connecting authors and readers in new ways. Dominique, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kay. And thank you to all of you who are here and to all of our authors who are participating. It is just such a gift to be in this community and to be a part of this community. Thank you to all of the librarians, the educators, the booksellers, and our industry friends who've joined us for our Kids and YA preview today. We have an amazing lineup for you, filled with a wide varieties of incredible stories and voices. And that's really at the core of what Sourcebooks is. We believe that books, that stories and different voices have the unique power to change lives because books are safe spaces. They create worlds where kids and teens can explore different ideas. It's what we all wanted as children, right? Sometimes these worlds are fun and funny and lighthearted, and they entertain us and teach us something different. And sometimes these worlds act as warning, and they urge us to think about and discuss different kinds of topics. Ultimately, the most important things that books do, and we have research these days to back that up, is to create empathy. Thanks to a lot of studies, we know that readers are more empathetic than non-readers. And this is important because when a person is empathetic, it means they create connections, they build relationships. That for kids and for teens in your lives, whether it involved putting the right book in their hands at the right time or creating banned book displays, which we need a lot of these days. And maybe it even means having to stand up to someone who doesn't believe all books should be on the shelf. These things should be easy, but we know that today, right now, they are not. So thank you to everyone who's on the front lines right now, who's doing this work. We can't begin to tell you how inspired we are by the work you're doing and how much we stand behind you and the fight that you are putting forth for kids in our lives. Please know that as a publisher, we really believe that it's vital for our world that we continue to publish lots of different voices, lots of different stories. For us, this might mean providing kids with really fascinating information about science and animals. You are about to see one that is really wild, and I can't wait to share it with you, but doing it in a way that guarantees that even the most reluctant reader is going to be engaged. It might mean showcasing two kids on opposite ends of the world, both struggling with the devastating effects of climate change, or it could mean exploring generational trauma in YA speculative fiction. We have these and many more stories for you today. I can't wait for you to hear about these incredible stories. Kay, can you introduce our first author, please?
Absolutely. It would be my pleasure. So our first author today has created a hilarious picture book that will, as Dominique said, appeal to even the most reluctant reader and will have them laughing out loud at the library, hopefully not getting shushed too much. Kari Lavelle is the author of We Move the World, as well as the forthcoming An Ode to Grapefruit, a picture book biography of James Earl Jones. She lives in Austin, Texas with her husband, 2 children, and doggo, Dobby. You can learn more about Kari and her books at karilavelle.com. Kari, I was doing so well. Kari, will you tell us about your new book, Butt or Face?
Yes, thank you so much. You did great. That was perfect. Yes, so I am so happy to be here to share Butt or Face with you all. It is the first in a series. I'm super excited about it. Feel free to giggle just hearing the name. I know. I wish I could hear you all. It is in a guessing game format. The picture is a close-up photo of an animal, butt or face. And then the next page is the reveal of the answer of whether it's a butt or a face. And has a fascinating fact, which we'll see as we're going to play. So here is my new favorite species. And so there's going to be a poll, I believe, in the chat. So do you think this is a butt or a face? Okay, here, hopefully the poll has popped up for you. So vote if it's a butt or a face. I don't know how long, maybe 10 seconds to lock your vote in. Is that too long? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Votes are out. Okay, let's see the reveal. Ooh, I love it. Half and half. So this is great. 45. That's exactly what I want with this book. So it's a butt. Male peacock spiders use this colorful pattern on their abdomen along with an elaborate dance to entice a mate. At this dance party, the male dances in front of the female for 4 to 50 minutes. And he better be good. If the female is not impressed, she might even eat the male. Maybe he should try the jitterbug. And then we have these beyond the backside and face the facts little snippets as well. There are over 90 different species of peacock spiders with different dances too. And these arachnids have only been found in Australia. This spider species does not catch their food with a web. Instead, they stalk their prey before they jump on them. And after this webinar, treat yourself to search male peacock spider on YouTube. And I think it's the BBC, or there's several options, but I promise you won't be disappointed. It is a scandalous love affair. Very exciting, more drama than any reality love show, The Bachelor or beyond. And Caitlin, the next slide, please. Okay, here's our next one to vote on. Here's another one. Is it a butt or face? Lock your votes in. I feel like I should sing Jeopardy music or something, but I'll spare you all. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's see our poll. Okay, it disappeared for me, but I'm sure it's astounding.
Oops,
Okay.
we had some technical difficulties with that one.
Oh no. Well, I think we can move on to the next slide. And all right, this is the face of the Mary River turtle. That mohawk look isn't from a punk rock lifestyle, but from the algae of the Mary River. Totally awesome, dude. Face the facts. The Mary River turtle has a special derriere too. In fact, it breathes through its butt. Butt breathing allows them to stay underwater for several days at a time. This endangered reptile is found around the Mary River in Australia. Thanks for playing. I hope you all enjoyed that. So the idea from this idea came from the pandemic. I wasn't feeling especially creative or inspired, as I'm sure many of you could relate to. And I was reading an article about farmers in Botswana painting eyes on the back of their cattle to confuse predators. And I was thinking to myself what that lioness might be thinking when she approached this cattle with eyes painted on the back of its behind. And I thought, is that a butt or a face? And that led me down this research rabbit hole. And I found that there were so many really fun behinds and faces in the animal world. And to be honest, I didn't think this would become a book, but I didn't care because I was having so much fun researching and actually feeling creative. And it had been a dry spell during the pandemic. But I'm so over the moon of how Sourcebooks has created this fantastic book. I just, it's beyond my imagination at the time. So in the back, there's a map that shows where the animals are from, as well as a chart that shows where they rest their behinds, their habitat, and what they put in their face, their food. And I'm really hoping that kids who read this really find new ways to see animals and to learn about animals and really get engaged, and to find, that idea that what makes us weird is what also makes us wonderful. As a mother of a reluctant reader, I'm also hoping that this hooks some of those kids as well, and that they find themselves swept away with the facts in this. The target age is 4 to 8, but I love hearing feedback that older kids and adults are also having fun with this. One review said that their 8th grader they looked away from their phone, which is maybe the ultimate compliment for me. So thank you so much. I can't wait for you all to have fun with this book.
Thank you so much, Kari. I can't wait to read this book with my 5-year-old. He is going to get such a kick out of it. So up next, we have another picture book, this one from Juno Dawson, that is going to be perfect for story time. This one will engage kids, get them laughing, and introduce them to really important things about family, identity, and acceptance. Juno Dawson is the internationally best-selling author of fiction and nonfiction for young adults. Her works include the highly acclaimed This Book is Gay, as well as What's the Tea? She's a columnist for Attitude Magazine and a key LGBTQ+ activist with the charity Stonewall. A former teacher specializing in behavior studies, Juno now writes full-time and lives in Brighton, England. Juno, will you tell us about You Need to Chill?
I will. Hello, everyone. Before I start on You Need to Chill, I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the booksellers and librarians out there who have been so supportive around, especially This Book is Gay. Obviously, I'm presently the 9th most challenged book in the United States, which has kind of moved sort of my sort of career into this sort of strange new space. I mean, the attempts of the sort of the far right to demonize children's books are both transparent and desperate, but that doesn't mean it's very pleasant. And it's particularly unpleasant for educators, teachers, librarians in the United States at the moment, having to constantly defend the presence of these books is by proxy defending the existence of young LGBTQ people. And that is not the job that you signed up for. But thank you very, very much for doing it anyway. I'm now going to share You Need to Chill, which is a slightly new flavor for me. It's my first picture book for younger readers. And I just thought the easiest thing to do would be to just read you a lovely story now. So relax, get your little cup of warm milk or dairy-free alternative, and I will read you a lovely story. The illustrations are by the wonderful Laura Hughes. I cannot take credit for them. Sometimes people say to me, "What happened to your brother, Bill? We haven't seen him in ages. Is he hiding? Is he ill? Is he lost in the park? Is he scared of the dark? Is he doing his homework still?" That's when I look them in the eye and say, "Hey, you need to chill." Was he eaten by a whale or shark? Was he munched up just like krill? That simply isn't true, I say. And hey, you need to chill. Is he on vacation in Barbados or Brazil? No one has gone anywhere. And hey, you need to chill. Is he at the zoo? Is he at the fair? Is he searching for a thrill? Although we do love the Ferris wheel, hey, you need to chill. But we're so confused and so concerned. We cannot rest until we find out what's happened to your older brother, Bill. Did he tumble down and hurt himself? Have they given him a pill? Is he on the pole or on the field showing off his skill? Was he taken to Mars by aliens? Is he on their spaceship still? Stop, I say. That's enough. Hey, you need to chill. There are no hungry whales, no little green men. Your hysteria is silly. The truth is that my brother Bill is now my sister, Lily. It was maybe quite a shock at first, but she's really just the same. She looks a little different and she has a new first name. She's still clever and funny and kind and cool. She's one in a mill. And if people have a problem, we shout, hey, you need to chill. So there we go. So it's great for story time. I remember when I was a primary school teacher, kids loved anything that they could scream along to at the top of their voice. And they love being able to predict what's going to happen next in a book as well. So I very much imagined it was one that I would have shared with my year one class back in my sort of former career. I think I'm a big fan of letting all of my books kind of speak for themselves. What I especially like about You Need to Chill is that it answers its own critics with its own title, which I think makes life really efficient for educators. And the answer is you need to chill. I think it's really, really encouraging that Sourcebooks have gotten so behind all three of my titles for LGBTQ youth. What's the Tea? This Book is Gay. And now You Need to Chill. I'm very excited to come over. I'm going to be visiting the States in June, my first trip since 2015, I think. So I'm very excited to do some stories while I'm in America as well. And yeah, I just hope you enjoy sharing it with your library groups and your classes and your story times in your bookshops as well. And I hope it goes down a treat there. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Juno. I absolutely love listening to you read your book. It's a delightful experience.
Oh, thank you. Are you feeling sleepy now? Is it time for bed?
No, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. And so we will go ahead and move on. We have one more picture book author who's going to tell us about an inspiring young woman who has experienced incredible success away from home and then chose to come back and make a huge difference in her own community. Marnie Fokelson is a children's book author, lifestyle writer, and community volunteer. She's worked in nonprofit development for nearly 2 decades and loves ice cream, swimming in the ocean, watching movies, and dancing. She has an insatiable love for reading and believes that books have tremendous power to make us better humans. Marnie lives with her husband, 2 children, and a very loud and affectionate hound in Philadelphia. Marnie, will you tell us about the girl who heard the music?
Yes, I would love to. Good afternoon, everyone. As Kay said, along with Mahani Tiavi, I'm the author of The Girl Who Heard the Music, How One Pianist and 85,000 Bottles and Cans Brought New Hope to an Island. The Girl Who Heard the Music is the story of Mahani Tiavi, a pianist and environmental activist who grew up on Rapa Nui, which is also known as Easter Island. Our book shares Mahani's journey as a musician and how she came to be one of the founders of the island's first music school. So before we talk about Mahani more, I want to give you a sense of Rapa Nui's location. This map here, created by our amazing illustrator, Marta Alvarez Miguens, gives you a better idea of just how isolated Rapa Nui is. It's over 2,000 miles away from Chile, though it's considered a Chilean territory. The closest neighbors are the Pitcairn Islands, which are over 1,200 miles away. So you can also see from the map what Rapa Nui is most famous for, the moai. These are giant statues that have tremendous spiritual significance in the Rapa Nui culture. And they're also the reasons that in pre-pandemic times, over 100,000 tourists came to Rapa Nui. And so for comparison, the number of year-round inhabitants on the island is around 7,000 to 8,000 people. Next slide, please. So what the map doesn't show you, of course, is how beautiful it is here. One of my favorite parts of writing the book was learning about some of Mahani's sensory memories, the fragrance of flowers on the island, the typical sounds found here throughout the course of the day, the way that the ocean sparkles. So wherever you are, I hope for just a moment you can imagine being on the island, breathing the fresh air, smelling the plumeria blossoms, listening to the waves, and being in the presence of these enormous statues, many of which are over 13 feet tall. Next slide, please. So Mahani grew up on Rapa Nui, and when she was 9, a retired music teacher and musician moved here and brought a piano with her. Mahani sought her out and begged for lessons, and it soon became evident that she was very talented. Unfortunately, the music teacher was going to be leaving soon, and since her piano was the only piano on the island, Mahani would not have an opportunity to keep practicing. So she ended up moving with her mother and sister to mainland Chile so that she could continue her musical education. She studied in Ohio and in Germany and performed all over the world, coming home to Rapa Nui for short periods of time. So back in Rapa Nui, they were facing some significant environmental challenges. Garbage was floating up on the shore, tourists were leaving behind too much trash. And because Rapa Nui is so isolated, they really have to import all of their food, construction materials, and things like that. Next slide, please. Mahani felt a pull to return to Rapa Nui, and she came together with several other islanders to build a sustainable music school where children could learn both classical music and traditional Rapa Nui music and art forms. Next slide. So in the process of building the school, they ended up using 7 years worth of garbage. And it's this wonderful, eco-friendly, solar-powered work of living art that has gardens and land to grow food for the islanders. Next slide, please. So I first heard about Mahani and the Rapa Nui School of Music and the Arts during the pandemic. One of our family traditions during this time was to watch CBS Sunday Morning, and they did a segment on Mahani. And I was so inspired by her story and the work that the school was doing that I DM'd her on Instagram, and I told her that we should do a children's picture book. And 2 years later, here we are. Next slide, please. You can probably tell, but I am really excited to share her story. There are really so few books on Rapa Nui, and we both thought it was important to give even just a glimpse of the incredible culture and life on the island, as well as Mahani's personal story. We want to give children hope that they can create change, and that when you work together for a common dream, you can inspire others to take action too. One thing that Mahani and I agree on is the interconnectedness between all people, and I hope this book speaks to the spirit of joining together to make the world a better place. And another great thing about the story is that it's still continuing. Mahani will be on tour in the US this fall, and the music school is still going strong. So I hope for children and families who read this book that they're inspired to think and live and act creatively. Next slide, please. So finally, I want to thank you all for the work that you do. I have 2 kids, and when they were little, whenever we would travel pretty much anywhere, we would research 2 things: where the playgrounds were and where the bookstores and libraries were. My son is 14. That's him pictured on the left when he was much littler. And there are a lot of things that he no longer finds cool, but he still talks about the time 7 years ago when we went to Madison, Wisconsin, and the owner of a bookstore gave him an advanced reader's copy of a graphic novel. He just could not believe it. He thought it was so awesome. Bookstores and libraries are foundational to our lives. Still, the picture on the right is my daughter 2 weekends ago in Princeton, New Jersey, where we happily read in the Labyrinth bookstore for over an hour. So I just want to say thank you for providing spaces for children and families, and for everyone really to learn and explore and read. So we hope you'll check out our book. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marnie. Okay, we are going to move up in age into a middle grade graphic novel. Very different type of book, but one that also stays on the topic of the environment. and shows us the dangerous effects of climate change. And we have two very well-known authors that we're excited for you to meet. So Owen Colfer is the author of Illegal, as well as the internationally best-selling Artemis Fowl series. Owen lives in Ireland with his family, and you can learn more at owencolfer.com. Andrew Duncan is an internationally best-selling, award-winning children's author and graphic novelist, and co-wrote Illegal with Owen. He lives in London with his family and is on the socials as @AndrewDuncan and @AndrewDuncan.com. Owen, Andrew, will you tell us about Global?
We will.
We would love to.
And can we first mention our wonderful artist, Giovanni Rigano, who's on the wonderful, very scenic Lake Como and has not invited me yet. So that's something we need to
I've been several times. He's a great host.
What?
Yeah.
You've been?
Yeah, many times. For a summer once. It's great. It's really nice.
Well,
Shall I share the screen and we can show
please
everybody what we're up to? Right, hang on one second. Okay, I'm going to share that, and I'm going to. Here we go.
Oh yeah, I think we saw your email there. Sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here we go. I'm looking for slides.
Where's it?
Hurrah!
Oh, there we go. Brilliant.
Okay, so we're here to talk about Global, and we have got 30 slides to get through in 6 minutes, which those of you who are good at maths will know that's over 18 slides a minute. So I think probably about that. So here we go. Many librarians and many lovely booksellers may remember us from Illegal, which we had out from Sourcebooks, who did a fantastic job with that. And thank you to all librarians and booksellers that supported that. It's a story about Ebu and migration across the Mediterranean. And what really hit home when we were in America touring with it was how everybody saw their own story, or the story of a family friend that they knew or a family member that they knew in it, to do with borders. Do you remember, Owen, the people that we met in the bookshops and stuff?
Yeah, I think at the time, there was a lot of people coming up from South America, and so I think there was that resonance in America, which was sad but also fascinating for us.
Absolutely. Here's a picture of Team Global. The handsome chap on the right is Giovanni, who is our brilliant Italian artist. The three of us have worked together on well over 1,000 pages of graphic novels. The two best things about Giovanni are, number one, he's a fantastic artist, and number two, he's quite compact. So when Sourcebooks send us around, traveling around the country to librarians and bookshops, he doesn't need his own seat. He can either sit on my lap or Owen's lap, or if we need to get our laptops out to work, then Giovanni quite easily pops into an overhead locker. So that's great, and he doesn't mind that. He's fine with that. Here's some of the places that we went on our tour in September 2018. Lots and lots of fantastic libraries there. Anderson's Bookshop, Boswell Bookshop, Left Bank Books, loads of really brilliant bookshops where we had fantastic evening events and really enjoyed bringing the story of Illegal. And here we are with Dominique. And I put this in because I like the captions in this picture, Owen. I like the fact that in the picture on the right-hand side, that whole sign across the top actually said, never ever ask what's going on in the mind of a writer. And the person has just cleverly just cropped that, and that's nice. And I like the fact that the three of us there, with Dominic looking lovely, and somebody has thought they'd better label you a human being.
Yeah.
I like that. So people might be confused as to what Dominique is standing next to. If we put that there, it just clears it up. It just clears it up. So that's
it could have been worse. It could have been face or butt. So I think it
could have been face or butt. So and we did many school visits. And here we've been on the road about 3 weeks, and you can see that even though Owen is standing upright, he has actually fallen asleep. He's got so bored in my company after 2 weeks that he has actually completely fallen asleep.
You are never picking the photos again. This is terrible.
So who is the audience for Global? And good news for booksellers, it's everyone. It's everyone 10 up. Graphic novels are kind of ages like that. So it's teens, students, and right through adults. And what is Global about? Global is about, obviously, global warming, the huge crisis that's engulfing mankind, with particularly a view to the impact on young people. Every single thing in Global is happening right now. None of it is things that might happen in the future or worst case scenarios in the future. Every single thing in the book has already happened. And we follow the story of two young people in different places in the world. I'm just going to move on. Owen, you want to talk a little bit about our characters?
Well, we have two characters, our two main characters. We have Sammy, who we see here, and Sammy and his grandpa are on the Bay of Bengal, and where a lot of islands are actually being submerged. So a lot of people's homes are being just sunk. And so more and more people are heading onto the mainland. And as you can see, things are getting pretty crowded because there are already fishermen living on the mainland. And they're also getting farmers coming from Eritrea. So there's this crush happening on the coast of the Bay of Bengal, and the coast is getting smaller and smaller. Up in Alaska, in the Arctic Circle, we have Yuki and her dog Lucky. And Yuki is determined to try and save the bears, so she goes out on the ice, which is melting, and the polar bear's habitat is shrinking. And because of that, polar bears are mating with grizzly bears.
Brown bears,
grizzly bears, and this new type of bear is coming, which is called a growler bear. And these do not really fit in either habitat, and they're very, very dangerous. So you have Sammy at the mercy of the ever increasing amount of cyclones, and then you have Yuki, who's being chased across the Arctic Circle by a dangerous growler bear.
What makes Global different? It's a very, very accessible graphic novel. It's got some fantastic, beautiful artwork, as you can see here from Giovanni. Our graphic novels start with a script. Giovanni does pencils, as we see here. Then he goes to inks. Then he goes to colors. Then we put the letters on. Here's another sequence like that. This is a Sammy at Sea sequence. These are Giovanni's pencils, and then inks, and then the beautiful colors, and then Chris Dickey, who's our fantastic letterer, puts lettering on there. Just like Illegal had some really well-received non-fiction pages in the back. We had an interview with someone that had done the journey across the Mediterranean, and Global had some non-fiction graphic novel pages in the back to explain to people what is climate change. We're particularly keen to inspire work in schools. Illegal inspired lots of really fantastic work in schools. That's the cover of Global. And that's the end, and that's 6 minutes. Thank you very much for listening.
Well done, Andrew. I think I need to lie down after that, as any human, which I definitely am, would do. But
yeah, no, you are a human, although you don't have a sign. And I think maybe when we do go on tour, we might make that an addition.
I'd just like to say, echo what the other authors have said, and say thanks to all the wonderful librarians and booksellers. We're coming over in April, and we hope to see a lot of you and speak to a lot of you, in person, because it's been a long time since we were able to travel to the US, and we're looking forward to our next trip. So from me in Dublin, have a wonderful
me in
day.
London. Thank you for listening. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you so much to the comedy and writing duo of Owen and Andrew. Now we are going to move up in age again into YA with a debut author who has crafted an extraordinary speculative thriller. Many of you have seen the feature that Publishers Weekly ran of Lily last week. We'll make sure to drop that into the chat in case you missed it. Lily Mead is a biracial Black woman living outside of Seattle, Washington. Her work has been published in Bustle and Teen Vogue, and she's been featured in Romper, BuzzFeed, and Rolling Stone. This is her debut novel, which was a finalist for the Eleanor Taylor Bland Award for Emerging Writers by Sisters in Crime, and you can learn more at lilymead.com. Lily, will you tell us about The Shadow Sister?
Hi. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, wow, what a task it is to follow these amazing authors. Sourcebooks just truly has the best talent. And I am so pumped to talk to you today about The Shadow Sister, my debut novel. It is about two sisters who don't really get along at all. I usually, when giving this pitch, say the first line, but there is a word in the first line that I don't know if I want video of me saying immortalized forever on YouTube. But let's just say they really, really don't like each other. But then one goes missing. And when she returns from her abduction, she's changed in ways that trauma alone can't explain. It's a spooky, speculative thriller. But just as much as it is about the mystery of what happened to her, it is very much about the sisters themselves and their family bonds, and who is and isn't worthy of being missed according to the media, because everyone deserves a justice. Everybody deserves somebody to care about them, to look for them, to avenge them if something bad happens to them. I was inspired to write this story by a true crime story that I heard on YouTube over a year ago. And I can't tell you what story because it would be a major spoiler. Great marketing move on my part. But I was thinking, because this case happened 100 years ago, I wondered how that same case might be interpreted if it happened in the modern day. And that led me to think about who would be the right person to tell that type of story. If somebody came back to you and they were so different from who they were before, how would you respond? And if you responded with distrust, suspicion, why would you respond that way? And how could that influence your family relationships? And I realized that it had to be from the point of view of a sibling of somebody who went missing, because every time that somebody goes missing, people always say that that person was such a light. They were a perfect person, that they never would hurt a fly or did anything wrong in their lives. And that obviously can't be true, but you have to get people to love someone to want to help you bring them home. And I thought the perspective of a teenage girl who hates her sister, but has to pretend that her sister was perfect so that her family isn't irreparably damaged, would be a very interesting person to hear from. And I feel like at least Sourcebooks agrees. But I also wrote it during the time that Gabby Petito went missing. And there was a lot of discussion about her disappearance, but also the attention that her disappearance was getting compared to other people that went missing, people who weren't white and blonde and conventionally beautiful, but who were just as important as she was. And that several of those people are still missing to this day, still haven't been found. And they didn't get the attention the media gave Gabby, but they also didn't get attention that the police gave her either. And that is just a very, very unfortunately common thing for missing women of color, especially Black women and Indigenous women. So in this book, I wanted to discuss the almost pageantry that you have to do just so that you can be valued as human the way that we all should be. But it's not all sad. In addition to this discussion about crime and legacy, it is a thriller, and it is about two teenage girls who are spoiled brats, but they've got their heads in the right place. And I have just been overjoyed for this experience with Sourcebooks and publishing my debut novel. Last week, I was in Seattle for Winter Institute, and I met so many amazing booksellers. And it was just so affirming to meet people whose job it is to help other people be passionate about books. It is a dream. And I can't believe my luck in having a career where my job is to meet and talk to people who are as passionate about reading and literacy as I am. Libraries too are so incredibly cool to me. When I was little, I come from extreme poverty, so the only way I'd be able to read new books was from the library. And I was so so consistent with going to the library that the librarian at my school would set aside new books for me to be the first to check out. This is just a dream come true. I cannot believe how cool it is to be here talking to you today and to listen to these other amazing authors and be considered equal enough to talk about my own. I really hope you like The Shadow Sister. And I can't wait to see what's next for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily. So last but certainly not least, we have Em Hendricks, who's created an amazing YA dystopian story with a timely and important message at its core. Em Hendricks is the author of 2 previous books. She has been nominated 5 times for the Pushcart Prize and was shortlisted for the Aesthetica Creative Writing Award. She holds a PhD in creative writing from the University of Cincinnati, where she was a Taft Fellow. Born in Baltimore and raised in New Jersey, she has lived in 10 states and now makes her home in Bowling Green, Kentucky with her husband, New York Times bestselling novelist David Bell. The Chaperone is her first YA novel, and you can learn more at mhendrickswrites.com. And will you tell us about The Chaperone?
Sure. Thanks for having me, everybody. It's good to see you. I also want to thank Kay for that great introduction. Thanks to everyone at Sourcebooks, especially Dominique, Annie, and Rebecca, who've been so amazing to work with. And thanks also to the booksellers and the librarians and the influencers. You all are on the front lines doing the hard work, and I can't tell you how much it means to me. So I'm super excited to tell you about The Chaperone, my debut novel, which comes out June 6th. You know, I wonder, have you ever thought about what it would be like if our country really did split in two? If it did that thing that a week ago, one of our representatives called a national divorce? I've thought about this for a long time, long before she proposed it. I've worried about it, and maybe that's because of where I live. I worry about what would happen to young people in a country like that if there was part of our country that seceded. I've worried about it so much that I wrote The Chaperone, where that happens. And our main character lives in a near future country called New America that has left the United States. In New America, though, girls and women have no rights. Basically, they can do nothing. They can't drive. They can't have credit cards or bank accounts. They can't have real careers. And Stella's 17. She's a teenager. Teenagers also aren't allowed to go out in public without a government assigned chaperone. Now, you would think then that Stella would hate her chaperone. She's like all teenagers. No matter where you're from, she longs for more freedom. But the truth is she adores her chaperone. Her chaperone is her best friend. So when Sister Helen drops dead in the first chapter of the book, Stella is devastated. She's terrified. She doesn't know why this happened. She wants to know if Sister Helen was murdered. But before she can find out the answers to any of those questions, her new chaperone arrives, Sister Laura. And Sister Laura immediately starts pushing her out of her comfortable little bubble. She wants Stella to try new things that she's not legally allowed to do in New America. At first, Stella's horrified. She thinks, I am not breaking the rules. I don't want to get in trouble because I know what happens to girls who do things that are bad, because that's what she's been taught in New America. So she doesn't want to do it. But as soon as she experiences a little bit of new freedom, then she wants more, and eventually even more. And she learns the truth about New America and the ways she's being oppressed. And when that happens, she decides she has no choice but to escape. And she sets out on a very dangerous journey across what used to be the United States. You know, they say you should write the book that you want to read. And this is the book I want to read, along with all the other books I loved and influenced me when I was a kid. When I was in high school, I had a little bit of a hard time. My parents moved from suburban New Jersey to rural Indiana in a small town. And all of a sudden, I was in a place where I didn't fit in. I didn't talk like anyone, and I didn't dress like anyone or look like anyone. And it was very hard. It was also a place where there was no ethnic, racial, or religious diversity. Everyone was the same, and I wasn't like them, to be honest. And it was scary and hard. And then they were also, I'm not kidding, they were literally burning books in the schoolyard at times in my school. It was the 80s, and this was happening. And I think it still happens now too, as we know. It was terrifying. And more specifically to me, I was bullied every day of my high school career for being different and talking different and just acting different. So I needed a book like The Chaperone. And I had books like that. I had The Diary of a Young Girl. I had The House on Mango Street, all the Judy Blume and S.E. Hinton books of the 80s. I loved all of those and they inspired me. And then as I got older, I was really inspired by books like The Handmaid's Tale, The Giver, The Hunger Games. And that's why I wanted to write this book. Dominique says that books change lives, and I agree. It's also booksellers and librarians, the people who put books in the hands of readers, especially young readers. When I was growing up in New Jersey, we didn't have a bookstore in my town, which was, disappointing, but we didn't think about it. My dad would just take me any weekend he could to the public library, and he would say, pick out whatever books you like. But then a miracle happened. I mean, really, it was a true miracle. We got a strip mall. And in that strip mall, there was a B. Dalton Booksellers. I just can't even tell you what this was like. It was the 80s, and you just didn't have a bookstore in your town. We were so excited. Everyone was. We all went there every weekend. My dad would take me to the library some weekends and to B. Dalton other weekends. And I'll never forget what he said. He always said, you can just pick out one book. That's it. I knew it couldn't be hardcover. I knew it had to be mass market, but I was still lucky to be able to get a new book sometimes. And the crazy thing is, when we moved to Indiana, where they were burning books at the school, there was actually an independent bookseller on the little square downtown facing the courthouse called Read More. And so my dad and I continued that weekend tradition of going to either the library or the bookstore every weekend. And he still said to me, even in high school, you can only pick out one book. But it was great. And the funny thing is, now that I'm adult, I've continued this tradition. My favorite thing to do with my spouse is to go to the bookstore on Saturday night, find a new book to read. It's almost like religion to me. I love it that much. That's why it's so exciting that now The Chaperone might be on the bookstore shelf, will be on the bookstore shelf in June. I'm thrilled about that. I think all debut novelists are thrilled, but I feel even more lucky because I've been writing for 28 years. 28 years I've been writing novels and stories and trying to learn how to do it right. And now it's finally happening for me. It's so exciting. I think the reason that this is the novel that's coming out is because I wrote The Chaperone for young people. In fact, I'll just read you really quickly. I dedicated the book for all the young people out there who dream of a better world. That's really who I wrote it for. And I know all of you are out there talking to readers. I really hope, and I'm asking you to help me get this book in the hands of readers, because I believe Stella's story will inspire them. It'll inspire them to fight for equality, to fight for change, and to never give up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Em. And another thank you to Kari, Juno, Marnie, Owen, Andrew, Lily, and Em for being here with us today. Even bigger thank you to everyone who joined us this afternoon. We are all incredibly excited about these authors and their upcoming books, and we're thrilled that we had the opportunity to share them with you. Now you just need to make sure to go over to Edelweiss or to NetGalley to download them, read them, and fall in love with them the way that we have here at Sourcebooks. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.